All right, we're live.
Hi, I'm Jenny Williams, and welcome to our 60 Minutes to Six Figures Google Hangout, which is the second Monday of every month at 1 o'clock Central Time. So glad that you joined us today because we are talking to Erle Morring, who's an agent at Realty South in Birmingham, Alabama, and he is amazing. You're going to pick up some excellent tips from him about how he earned six figures his very first year out of the gate. And once you get to know him, you won't be surprised at all about his success, but we're going to give you some tangibles that you can implement in your own business during our hour today. And first of all, I want to welcome Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Jenny. How are you?
Matt is hanging out with us from Orlando right now, and so his connection may go in and out. It's okay. It's just how technology works, and it's awesome that we all get to talk with each other, being on different parts of the country anyway. Matt is with Viral Marketing, and Viral Marketing makes all of this possible. They put all of this together for us, and they do an excellent job for our clients, reminding clients to reach out to buyers and sellers to reach out to our real estate clients through video marketing email. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much. And guys, if you have any questions, you can actually type them in, and I'll bring them to Jenny and Earl, and they can answer them live.
Sounds good. All right. So, guest of honor, Earl, welcome to the Hangout.
Well, thanks, Jenny. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate the invite.
Well, I'm so glad that you took your time out because you have already started 2015 with, tremendous activity in your business. And I know that every precious moment is important. So thank you for coming and sharing with other agents, how you became so successful your first year out of the gate. And I know those words probably are, you may want to roll your eyes when people talk, to you about that, or because I know what that feels like. You just got out there and worked, I'm sure, and at the end you were like, well, gosh, I didn't do half bad. What's interesting is that the average agent last year earned around $40,000 in income. So you did incredibly well your very first year by coming out of the gate and earning six figures. What do you feel, what could you contribute to that more than anything?
Well, I had a very unique opportunity when I came into the market because I had the opportunity to kind of inherit a book of business. My business partner is Paige Patterson. Paige had been in the Birmingham, Alabama market for a long time, been working with Realty South in the Crestline office. And Paige and her husband made a decision that they wanted to move to Lake Martin. Paige went to work for Lake Homes Realty down there, and she had this book of business in Birmingham that she basically wanted to close down. She kind of had clients that needed some help, and she asked me if I would come in and kind of help close that business down. What that did right out of the gate for me is it gave me immediate clients, it gave me instant credibility, and it opened my business, so to speak. And I was fortunate to be able to use that foundation that I was given from Paige to kind of be a launching board to kind of grow my business from there.
Well, and what I think is very important about that, I don't want anybody to think that just because you had already this wealth of past clients, you had to go in and know how to be a salesperson. You had to know how to relate and connect with those people because not all agents can do that. And we definitely have seen, I have personally seen in the past where agents will come in, inherit another agent's book of business, and they go nowhere with it. You did a really good job by being that go-to person and connecting with those clients. So that says a lot about who you are.
Yeah, and it was a big challenge for us. We screwed some things up in transitioning some of those clients, of course, and not everything was all rosy and perfect. But Paige and I kind of learned very quickly how we would sit down with the clients. We would kind of pass the baton, so to speak. and explain how the transition would work. Some of the transitions were great, some were not. But for the most part, it all worked out beautifully. And you're right, it took a lot of work to sell them, get their property sold, get them in new houses. So a lot of time, effort, and energy went into that. It was not a free gimme. We had to work at it to make sure that the client's best interests were at heart.
I know when
and Earl, you didn't come into this with any real estate experience, did you?
You know, I did not have formal real estate experience. I had bought and sold a lot of houses. I had flipped properties, so I had some knowledge about how the process works, and understanding kind of the facets of the buying and the selling process. But in terms of being an agent or, you know, professional experience, no, I didn't have that. My background, believe it or not, is in the mental health field, and
which
I
makes
spent.
you perfect for real
I wish now I had been a clinician in the mental health field, because I feel like I'm a counselor dealing with these buyers and sellers all the time. But you know, my background was in a completely different industry.
Well, being able to work with crazy people, though, and around them, definitely gives you a leg up in this business. But you being able to flip houses, and you probably had experiences that were much better than others. You could figure out, you know, what you wanted for your clients.
My approach to real estate back when I was an investor, and this is carried over to me as a realtor as well. I approach it two ways. I think there's a science to it, and I think there's an art to it. The science to the real estate game is looking at the numbers in the black and white from the investment standpoint. Is it a smart investment? Do the numbers add up? Are you paying too much? Are you paying too little? Are you buying instant equity? I love to look at that side of the fence to make sure that the client knows from the black and white investment side of it what they're getting into. And then on the art side of it, there's a huge emotional appeal in buying and selling real estate. For me, that's never been there. I've always looked at it as an investment. But for a husband and wife, two spouses moving in together, looking for a place for their family, that emotional element's got to come into it as well. So I think those two things are very important in the real estate buying and the selling process.
Well, I think one of the things that you're really good at doing is that you evoke trust in your clients and just people in general. Kimberly Bibb, our business coach, is lucky enough to work with you, but that's one of the things that I have watched you and your business, and even with co-op agents, is that you instill a level of trust so that people can go through their emotional experience. I don't know how you end up doing that, but you do a great job.
Well, you know, to me, and when I was in the mental health field, I was basically a sales manager. So I ran the sales and marketing team of these two different companies that I worked for. And I always said there are two types of salespeople. There are the killers, and there are like the cultivators, you know. And I'm not a killer when it comes to sales. I like to cultivate the relationship. I'm very low pressure in my approach. And I think that is very important in real estate. You lay out the facts of the black and white, you play to the emotional, and you let the client make the decision. I think when somebody is buying the biggest investment probably of their lifetime, pressure doesn't work. And I think that you need to create that environment of warmth, trust, understanding, and knowing exactly what the client is looking. You've got to understand your client and their unique needs to be able to help them get into what's appropriate for them.
I agree. So now I know the language behind, because we do work with Paige in her business, and she's a killer.
She is.
So now I know where that language came from. She's a killer and you're a cultivator.
That's right.
That is too cute. So
they say opposites attract in love, and I guess they do in business as well, because Paige and I are very different.
Yes, but both very amazing people. And of course, if you've been watching our Google Hangouts in your office or at home, then you'll know that Paige was a guest of ours just a few months ago, and she's down at Lake Martin and helps people buy second homes now, because Erle has done such a great job in with her book of business still in Birmingham. But Erle, you have other business sources that come to you. You know, what are some of the other lead sources you used in 2014?
You know, when I started in 2013, the bulk of the business was pages at that point in time. I mean, that's where the referrals were coming from. And my broker, Millie Osborne at Realty South Crestline, Millie sat down with me, and we were talking about business planning, and we were talking about my goals and objectives and all that kind of stuff, and I was taking people to lunch and coffee and all this networking, and she looked at me and she said, "Erle, it's all about the internet, internet, internet." And I left there, kind of that meeting with Millie, and I thought, no, it's not. It's not all about the internet. It's not. But I signed up for Zillow. I signed up for Trulia, and my business went from right here to wide open. And I started getting tons and tons of leads, and really to the point that I couldn't respond to all of the leads that were coming in. And for what it did for me right there at the start, coupling Paige and that business with Zillow and Trulia, it almost solidified me to family and friends that I was for real in this business, and that I was actually selling business, and I was beginning to put things on Facebook, and you know, all the listings and all the closed deals, and people immediately were like, "God, Earl's doing good." And where I am now is Zillow and Trulia don't represent the bulk of my business. Now the bulk of my business is coming from referrals. So though I'm still doing a lot of online stuff, the bulk of it is coming from referrals at this point.
But you needed that momentum coming through with all those extra leads until people had that confidence in you as a real estate agent.
Yeah, there was an agent. There is an agent in our office. She's just wildly successful. One of the top producing agents in the city. And like the first week I was there, she and I were talking, and she said, "Do not depend on your family and friends to make you successful in this business." And I thought, God, how bitter sounding is that? I mean, you know, that's just awful, right? And you know what? She was exactly right, because people want to work with a winner. And people want to work with somebody that knows what they're doing. And realtors, really, we're a dime a dozen. I mean, there are a lot of us. A lot of us have a license. And there are a lot of different variations of realtors. And as people began to see success in me, then that's when the family and friends started calling. And now I look back to that conversation with her back in August of 2013, and I'm like, you know what? She was exactly right. It's important to listen to those in the real estate industry around you that have been there and done that, you know?
Well, I agree with her completely, because those are always the first people who forget us. However, you do get a bulk of your business from that now, only because you've proven yourself. And you, Erle Morring, are no dime a dozen.
That's right. And, you know, one thing that your team, you and Kimberly...
Don't get me started.
But one thing that you and Kimberly have done for me in Get a Real Estate Life is you have emphasized that to me over and over again, and you have encouraged me, both of you, to continue to keep going out and being in front of that sphere of mine and touching them in ways that they don't forget me, that they know that I am in the business. That may be a tweet, that may be a post on Facebook, it may be a telephone call, it may be wearing this name badge that I wear all the time and running into them at the local grocery store. So it's just, real estate's got to be first and foremost in everything I do.
Well, and just me seeing, you know, what you did over the weekend on Facebook. I know that's ridiculous, but I'm not the only one who saw that you went to a ball and you saw a lot of people there. You made probably a lot of contacts, and you got reacquainted with people you probably haven't seen in a long time. So that's probably going to end up turning into leads this week.
You know, one of the biggest things that has surprised me about the world of real estate, because this didn't happen in my past career, you know, my past career more or less was 8 to 5 or 8 to 6, Monday through Friday. And I guess the biggest thing that has amazed me is real estate, for me, has almost become a way of life, in that everywhere I go, everybody that I interact with, they're potential customers. And it's amazing how many people just want to talk about real estate. They want to know about the market. They want to know about interest rates. They want to know about things that are selling in their neighborhood. And one thing that Paige is so good with, and she's really encouraged me in this area, Paige knows her statistics and she knows the data.
Yes, she does.
And I think for every successful realtor, you never know where that question's going to come from, and you never know what people are going to ask. You got to know market stats. And for me, that's proven to be helpful just in day-to-day conversation with random Joes that want to talk about real estate.
Well, we have that on our side because people are interested, and you have to use it to your advantage. And a lot of agents will say, well, gosh, I don't even want to talk about real estate. I wouldn't want them to think I'm trying to sell them anything. Well,
they want to hear about it. They want you to talk about it.
And it ends up, I mean, you probably agree with me, Matt, it ends up making it seem like we wouldn't want to help them.
Yeah, I can definitely get into that. If you don't have, you should always be ready to give an answer.
Right, that conversation comes up a lot, and I'll hear agents that we work with say, well, I really just didn't want to bother them. Well, and that's why, you know, your friends and family do end up buying from somebody else, because another agent was happy to, quote unquote, bother them by answering questions.
Right,
and letting them into houses. So,
yeah, that's a difficult thing with sales in general, is just that the idea that being hesitant to talk to somebody and then you mentally disqualifying them before giving them a chance. You just assume that they're not interested.
Right, and a lot of time it's probably a little bit of that, but I think it's more we're disqualifying ourselves, because if I act too eager, then, you know, I don't want to be seen as like a salesperson who's like, you know, being pushy and trying to talk them into something when you're just in the grocery store line.
Yeah, and I can't see Earl coming across that way. I mean, Earl, with your background, you know, even if you did get into talking about market stats, I think you're with that cultivating mentality. I can see that just being an avenue to starting that relationship, and it just builds that trust and credibility that Jenny mentioned earlier.
Well, I think in the sales process, and I used to teach people that were my sales reps this, and it's just, I mean, it's purely sales 101. If you were to walk into somebody's office and trying to sell them something, you look around the room and you see something that is personal to them, and you say, well, War Eagle or Roll Tide or you're into fishing or hunting or this, it immediately, there's a bond there. And you've got to find that first bond, and it may be over that stat to say, you know, 10 homes have sold in your neighborhood in the past 6 months. Average price is this. I mean, that could be the bond. You've got to find and search for that first thing to open the door.
Right, I agree. And so that goes back to what many, many people have forgotten, and that is like how to be a helpful salesperson. Because so much of the world is on the internet, and our conversations are text or email, and we forget to be personable and relate. So I think that's an excellent point, Earl.
You know, we've had this conversation in the Get a Real Estate Life world before, but, you know, everybody talks about the online leads that are coming in and how do we respond, and, you know, everybody says faster is better, and you got to be quick, and you got to get to them in 5 minutes. And what I have found in my experience is even if you call back a couple hours later, they want you to be knowledgeable. So if you call them and say, hey, you reached out on Zillow about XYZ house, I never call somebody back until I pulled it up in the MLS to see if it's still active, to see if it's on the market, to know taxes, blah, all the relevant info, so I can carry on a professional conversation with those folks. And I know a lot of people don't do it that way, but I have found in just my short experience that that's the best way to hook. That's the best way to come across as you know what you're doing and get that first appointment with them.
Okay, so that's an excellent tip for you right there. If you are working Zillow leads, then what Earl just said is go look that property up in MLS, find out everything that you can about it so that you do come across as having some sort of knowledge about that particular house, because that is what that Zillow buyer wants, is information about one particular house, and that's usually how that lead was generated. Matt, do you have any other tips on following up with the Zillow lead?
Well, just in the sense that the clients that I've talked to, especially if they have teams, the response time is very important. So there's a balance there where you want to pull up the information, you want to be as prepared as possible, and then balancing that out against still getting back in touch with them as quickly as you possibly can, because the timing is still very, very critical.
Right,
and I agree with that, because if you take two real estate agents that return the phone call, are knowledgeable, professional, know everything that I just talked about, and somebody beats me out by an hour, then they're going to get the lead and I'm not. So yeah, I agree with the timeliness. But I have, and also in doing that, and a lot of people don't do this, but my philosophy is I will meet everybody in person at a property once. So I don't pre-qualify them on the telephone. I pre-qualify them in person at a property that they're interested in. Does it take more time for me to do that? Absolutely it does. Do some of them not pan out? Of course they don't. But the ones that do, they're already hooked because I've met them in person. That trust factor is there, and boom, they end up being a client normally when I do that.
And okay, so how do you work like a buyer presentation into that process? Is it in that first meeting after you've taken them through that first home and they've realized maybe that's not the home for them? You move into a buyer presentation about why they should continue working with you as opposed to just going back to Zillow
and Jenny may cringe and may, think, oh my God, is she really doing this? But I don't have a buyer presentation.
Oh, no, that's it. Hangout's over.
Right, boom.
You have one, you're just not using it.
No,
we have one.
I have a buyer presentation. It's here, and I weave it into going through and showing them that first house. So Matt, they never know that I am doing a buyer presentation with them, because we're talking about financing, we're talking about all the steps in the process as we're looking at the bathroom and the garage and the backyard, and it just flows naturally. It's not something where I sit down and say, boom, here it is. I just talk about it.
Interesting. Okay.
And
Jenny,
you're
how
right.
do you feel about
I'm
that?
getting over my cringe right now, but
Right.
only because I do agree with your process, though, Earl. Especially as a brand new agent, you're going and finding the lead source, the number one lead source that is working for most agents across the country. That's a huge tip for our viewers. And you are making it easy and possible for them, right? You're providing the information. If they like the information, you're going to meet people. In your first year of real estate, your first 3 years of real estate, you need to meet as many people as possible. I do not like people pre-qualifying people over the phone, because it makes them feel like they're not worthy. I have met many, many people who filed bankruptcy yesterday who somehow saved cash and can buy a house. Just because we might not ask the right questions on the phone, it does not mean that that is not a worthy person to spend some time with. Now, granted, when you are doing over 100 transactions and your time is extremely limited, of course you're going to ask different questions on the phone up front. But when you are brand new, this is why I agree with what you're doing, and I agree with how you've made your decisions, is you need to meet those people. I had a lady in my business one time who had really rough credit. She became one of my biggest foot soldiers because I did spend about an hour of my time going over a detailed presentation with them, helping them straighten out their credit, and every single day I got a phone call from very credit-worthy people saying they wanted that same presentation, and they bought. She probably was responsible for 8 people a year in sales for me. So every single person is worthy of your time. It's all in how you set that time up. Now, we will talk later, Earl, about actually laying it out. I know you, and I know that you're a professional. I know you're going over everything, but I don't have any argument on you meeting people right up front at a house. I think that we have to make it easy on people and stop making everything difficult on clients these days, on buyers and sellers, and that's what will help stand you apart as well. Now, how do you do the follow-up, Earl? Like, now you've probably got a lot of Zillow leads that are out there. What are you doing to stay in touch with them?
Well, that's one thing that I'm working with Get a Real Estate Life right now on trying to stay better in touch with that pool of people. You know, I guess the downside to the online leads is you get a bunch of crap. I mean, you get a bunch of stuff that is absolutely a waste of time and energy. You get lots of people that want to rent. You get lots of people that are calling. You know, there's just a bunch of garbage. You have to weed through that, and the only way to do that is talk to them, meet them face to face. But with the ones that are true leads, I try to put them into a system, and Paige and I, in our business planning, and I'm not 100% perfect at this, but I try. We do this time blocking thing where we try to follow up once a week with the real leads. It could be a text, it could be a phone call, it could be an email. I did it last week right before we went on this Google Hangout. Girl called and she said, we're ready to go look Thursday morning. So that was an online lead follow-up, and right before we started this, she called me back, and it's going to turn into a sale.
Wow, and that's fantastic. That is great because you are staying in touch. In your first year, did you end up working mostly with buyers, it sounds like, or with sellers?
You know, it was probably a 70-30 mix, primarily with buyers. The primary sellers were referrals in from Paige and her past business. Now that is really beginning to change. I mean, you know, you did a wonderful thing as one that signed up to Get a Real Estate Life and said, I don't need coaching, I know how to sell, I need marketing from Get a Real Estate Life. You know, your coaching was beautiful because you issued this challenge to us to get 10 new listings in the last 30 days. And I really bit into that challenge, hook, line, and sinker, and went after it and have hit that goal. And a couple of those came as referrals from Paige and our partnership, but the majority of them are mine. And I really want during 2015 to focus on getting more listings because it basically doubles the revenue. They're going to sell and they're going to buy something else. So it makes sense from a business standpoint, the more listings you can get.
Well, and it really determines the health of your business. I'm sorry, Matt, I started talking on top of you. Just because that you have something to promote whenever you take listings, your signs are everywhere. And when your signs are out, then people are automatically associate you with a ton of success, and they also see that other people are trusting you. When you're working with a lot of buyers, nobody knows that or sees it. So it's not something that is tangible to a regular consumer. That's why listings are so important for market share, to give you a reason to market, give you a reason to reach out and talk to people. And I have to say this about Earl as well. He kept saying, yeah, things are really happening, but I just don't think I'm going to meet this challenge. Things are really happening. I'm really getting out there and working. And how many did you get in 30 days?
Supposed to be getting paperwork today. It'll be 11.
Ta-da! So you did buy into it hook, line, and sinker. However, you weren't sure that you were going to be able to accomplish that. And I can tell you that second year in, and to be able to get 11 listings in 30 days is amazing. But it all came from, you agree with me, Matt?
Yeah, that was going to be my question, is how did Earl do that? That's what I want to hear about, because I feel like, for agents that are in their first year, that's probably the biggest mental challenge, is having the confidence to go after a seller when you've just been working with buyers and all of a sudden flip that and go, no, I can market your property. It's a completely different skill set.
Yes, it is.
Actually, Matt, it's following the model of my business. I mean, some of it came from Paige, just folks calling in, past customers of hers. Some of it, believe it or not, has come in from Zillow. So I had a guy who is an investor. He lives in California, and he had, and Jenny, this will make you smile, it's multiple properties. The guy had 2 investment properties that he wanted to unload. I had another lead come in from Zillow. Guy liked he had really studied my profile, studied my past sales, realized that I knew his market based on my past sales, and picked me to sell his wife's condominium that was her first home. We put it on the market. We're under contract in 4 hours.
Well, he made the right choice.
And then actually doing what Jenny and Kimberly have said, of asking for business, of who do you know who needs to sell a house, and then this is where I was a little uncomfortable with this challenge, because I knew we were getting down to this last weekend. The deadline was yesterday, and I really wanted to get all of this paperwork signed, and it put me out of my comfort zone to do this, but I really pushed these people. I'm like, we need to get paperwork signed, and we need to get it signed now. And I didn't say it like that, but I pushed it, and that's not my style. My style is to be, oh yeah, call me when you're ready, and thanks to Jenny and Kimberly, I kind of got out of that comfort zone, and I really went after it more aggressively than I normally do.
And look what happened on the other side.
Yeah, pat on your back for being a good coach, and thanks to Kimberly.
No, you did the work. I will never, ever take credit, because for you and all your efforts, there were other people that didn't even make an attempt to make that happen. So that is all you, your talent, your effort, your energy, your time, and that's what makes people stand out. That's why you were able to earn a 6-figure income. So now that you've got this new inventory coming in, and you've got something to market, and something to use in the marketplace, as far as signs out, properties, share with us a little bit about how you're promoting those.
Well, it's interesting. You were saying a little while back about signs and listings and people knowing that you're out there. That helps. At that ball, the Mardi Gras ball I was at Saturday night, I had a friend, I hadn't seen him in years. He came up to me, and he was like, man, I see your signs everywhere. And in the neighborhood that he lives in, I have 2 listings, but I have directionals everywhere.
Thank you.
And it makes it look like I have all these listings, but I just have signs on every corner. So the signs is a big deal. Marketing on Facebook and social media is, in my opinion, huge, because it's working. One thing that we're going to start doing that Kimberly has been kind of promoting to me is doing the Facebook boosting, and trying to boost ads and that kind of stuff to expand it outside of my sphere. We're going to be doing traditional postcard marketing, and so we're kind of hitting them from a whole bunch of different directions. We're going to be doing the open house on steroids, for the neighborhoods that I want to grow my business. So, there are a lot of ways that I intend to use these listings to go from here to make it even bigger. And that's going to be a challenge for me. And again, it's going to put me outside of my comfort zone, but it's going to be something that needs to be done to keep the business growing.
Well, and that's why I issued it so early, because I wanted you to have that inventory to build your momentum for the rest of the year to sustain it. Now, let's go back to those directional signs for just a moment, because that is a huge tip. Directional signs are so inexpensive, and if you can have them everywhere, and here's what a lot of agents will say, well, gosh, they just get picked up. Well, they do get picked up. So what?
Right.
How many times do you run an ad and people throw it in the garbage? Yes, they're going to get picked up. It is the least expensive method to really promote the image of market share out there that you can do. So guess what? Order more of them, and when you order them in bulk, then they're going to be a lot less expensive anyway. One of our loan officers that I work with in his business, he and I have been throwing around these ideas, and what I think would even be more effective on the directionals is if you got a directional on top of, a rider on top of your directional that had some kind of clever saying about the house, just to get people's attention, because after a while, just like everything else, directionals will come white noise. Okay, if you get 4 or 5 clever riders that you can put on top of your directionals, then you can switch those out as well, so that you will continue to grab attention of the traffic that's moving by, and hopefully get them over to that property. Some of those ideas have been like from our lenders, if you find a good lender that has an abatement program, you could do no payment for 6 months on this property. Well, that's huge. That's going to catch my attention. Am I going to probably get that loan? Probably not. I might not want that, but at least it gives you an option that you're not saying like, honey, stop the car, or, silly things. Neat as a pin. You want to think and interrupt their thoughts is what I'm saying. Interrupt their thoughts so that you can attract them and get them to that house. So way to go that you're using directionals. Love that.
Jenny, last spring, I had some listings that were in a part of town that would kind of be a lower socioeconomic demographic, and the properties weren't moving, and we were having trouble getting people in the door. And a lender came to me, and we have this program in Alabama, this 100% financing program. He said, let's put 100% financing available riders on the top of these signs, and let's also do flyer boxes in front of the signs with mortgage information and explaining how the program works. I was amazed that when we put those directionals up, the phone immediately started ringing. And it was so exactly what you're saying about something different up there. It caught people's attention, and they called. And I was amazed at how quickly the phone started ringing on those properties.
Awesome. So yeah, there's another client that we work with. He's on the East Coast. He actually has 3 different types of signs on every listing, and they're all aimed at different demographics, respond to different types of signs in different ways, with different options for how to contact them and different kind of calls to action for that exact reason. It just attracts more attention. All you got to do is just get them to call, and then you've got your buyer leads, and that's like the first step to leveraging yourself and getting someone to help you with all those buyer leads.
That's fantastic. I'm a huge fan, and I'm a huge fan of exactly what you just said too, Earl, of the flyer boxes, because when people want information, they want more of it. So now you don't want to give too much, because then they won't reach out to you and call you. But when you give just enough and make it enticing, then you're going to have another sale. And we always have to remember that, because we're in the business of sales, that people don't want to talk to us. We're really nice people, but the majority of the public just really don't want to talk to us. Earl, can we go back just a minute to your background, and can you tell me what, I'm sure lots of people are interested in knowing what kind of training that you've had right out of the gate.
What kind of real estate training I had right out of the gate?
Yes.
At Realty South, they put all of us as new agents through some kind of training program. We get some kind of initials. I don't even know what it is, but we go through a training program, and it was pretty good. We went through it pretty fast. We did.
CRS.
Do what?
Isn't it CRS?
Yes. Yes.
The designation.
Yep, that's it. And then we did some stuff at the Board of Realtors for new agents. But honest to goodness, there really wasn't a lot of training on the front end that I went through. My broker recommended that we go through, we look at fall and winter as an opportunity to get additional education and designations and that kind of stuff. So this past fall, I went through the GRI designation course. And that was a wonderful experience for me. It's through the Alabama Realtors, and it was great. But, in terms of my real estate training, that's kind of it. In terms of my sales training, I've been doing it for 18 years. I've just changed industries. And I, was doing business-to-business sales, selling to human resource professionals. So I've just parlayed that kind of experience into working with home buyers and sellers.
Well, let's talk about your business plan. And I'm not sure if you had one right when you started. Did you end up putting together any kind of business plan right after you got your license?
Absolutely not. I right after I started, I had no clue what I was doing. I was sitting in a training course at the Board of Realtors for new realtors, and somebody said in Birmingham, Alabama, the average agent sells, I think it's 2 or 3 houses and makes $20,000 a year or something like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't be average. I've gotten into the wrong industry. I mean, it just scared the daylights out of me. And I knew at that point that I didn't want to be average, and I knew that I needed to work very, very hard, but I really didn't know what I was doing. Spring came, I'd signed up for Zillow and Trulia. Spring came, and it was like the floodgates opened, and it was all I could do to keep my head above water, and it about sent me into a tailspin. Now, after signing up with y'all, I have a business plan for 2015. I kind of know what I'm doing. I kind of know what I'm marketing. I know what target markets I'm going after. I'm approaching it in a much more methodical, organized way, and I'm much more relaxed in 2015. Doesn't mean that I'm working any less, but I kind of feel a little more confident because I know what direction I want to take, where I didn't have that during the past 18 or 19 months.
Well, and insider secrets here. We went through business planning in October, right? Yes. And, we have a 3-hour breakthrough business planning workshop. And, I suggested how to analyze last year, really play up the lead sources that worked for you last year, make that your number one priority for 2015, and what you really enjoy, what you like, your skills, your strengths, and bring back your calendar January through February, filled out of the marketing that you're going to do this year, the how many appointments you're going to need to have and complete every single week in order to hit your income goals, and the other ways that you're going to prospect each week to get those appointments, because pretty much that's simplified, that's your business plan. And I'm going to probably just embarrass myself, not you, Earl. Earl brings his back, and oh my God, it is beautiful. It was so beautiful that, yes, I cried. It was all typed up electronically, and it was gorgeous, and he was the first one to turn his in, so I was amazed, not just because that was him turning it in. I was amazed because he's so new into this business, and he, again, that's why he did so well his first year, but he listened, and he was the first one to do it. And to me, I know that confidence that it gives an agent to say, you know what, I've got my stuff together. I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm not guessing. That doesn't mean I'm going to live every day as I have planned it. There's going to be some flexibility in there, and I may wake up one day saying, I hate that lead source, or I can't believe I decided to go after that neighborhood, or I can't stand that price range, and I really don't want to be involved in these types of loans, and you just change it, but you have a plan for this year. And many agents don't. You can do what Earl did, and that's just to plot out everything. And a lot of times what I tell the agents, if a whole year is just too daunting or too overwhelming for you, take it quarter by quarter and say, here's for the first quarter, this is the marketing I'm going to touch my sphere of influence with. This is marketing I'm going to do outside of that to attract people I don't know in yet. And this is the way that I'm going to keep my service going with the clients that I do have in front of me. And then making sure that your calendar is filled with the appointments that you want to have. That's all it is. It's nothing more complicated than that. And, how are you going to get those appointments? What kind of prospecting are you going to do to have fun? And now that you're out there and you're seeing, Earl, that you were planned out, you're not following your plan to the exact T, but you've already taken 11 listings in 30 days. I mean, you're doing amazing things. That's going to turn into, you're so good at conversion that you should be able to turn to into 2 transactions into every sign that you have. And what Kimberly and I always teach and preach here is take one client and leverage them into 3. That's the whole beauty of it. You have to have that first person to talk to in order to do that, though. So I'm super proud of you, and I'll cry again about it because it's so rare. He thought, and I love him because he says, I thought everybody turns theirs in. That does not mean you're not allowed to turn yours in at the end of this year.
That's what I was thinking. Next year I can be late.
The expectation is set now, or you back yourself into a corner.
She's
going to expect it earlier, and it's going to have to be like full Technicolor and the whole 9 yards.
Go ahead, Matt.
So, hey, Earl, did you, speaking of like the postcards and things like that you mentioned in your prospecting, are you going after specific areas? Have you and Paige picked out a farming area that you're going to go after this year?
Yes, we have. And
okay, so what was the process of picking that out?
Well, what I did, and Kimberly and I talked about this during coaching, I think it was last week or week before last. The neighborhood I live in, which is where I would just love to farm, there are about 8 agents that live within half a mile from me. And I'm not talking about 8 agents that are just run-of-the-mill agents. I'm talking about 8 exceptional agents, yes. Very well respected in the industry and multi-million-dollar producers and on excellent teams. And So I got to thinking about that. I thought I need to find an area that is a type of home that I like, that I know a lot about, and I need to kind of go somewhere where the competition isn't. So that's kind of one of the areas that we have picked. Another is an area where Paige has had a lot of past experience, and we're going to be focusing on that area too.
Okay. So, and while Jenny rejoins us, because I think she dropped off, there was something that she mentioned to me before we got on the Hangout about the something about a video, like a 52 and 52. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's something that all my friends are making fun of me about. I mean, everybody's like, Earl, you're so corny, so stupid. You want to be on HGTV. You're doing these sorry little videos on Facebook. But I'm going into these houses once a week, and I'm taking my phone, and I'm holding it up, and I'm walking around the house, and I'm talking about the house. And I'm talking about the neighborhood, and I'm talking about price per square foot, and I'm talking about the type of buyers and sellers that are looking in this neighborhood, kind of giving a neighborhood overview and kind of giving a house overview. And I'm calling it 52 houses in 52 weeks. And yeah, it's kind of cheesy, right? But everywhere I go, people are talking about it. And it just blows my mind, Matt, that people are asking questions about it, and they're watching it, and it's getting great views. So yeah, the 52 and 52 is a good thing. Technology is a wonderful thing. Jenny has walked into.
Knocked me offline. I want to make sure, though, before we leave, to say that Earl is meticulous about the customer experience and the service, and he's not going to be one of those that is going to take on more clients than he can service well. And I feel like you believe strongly in making sure that you're going to get referrals from these people because they're going to have a good experience.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, again, it's that cultivating thing of I'm not more interested in the next deal and the killer aspect of it, where I'm more interested in serving the client, developing the relationship, getting what they want out of it, and in a low pressure approach. And also, it amazes me at how emotional people get and bent out of shape that people get during the buying and selling of a house. And I'm trying real hard to them. Behind the scenes I may get ticked off, but I want to be that constant for them. Right. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm the rock solid.
What they need us to be.
I'm the professional they can lean on when it's tough, and that's challenging to do.
Well, it is.
Earl, I feel like there's a lot of agents that have that same mentality and that intention, which is great about the industry. I mean, there's a lot of people in the industry that genuinely their first priority is their client, but then they struggle when they get to actually having the confidence to ask for the referral. Like it's all good in theory, but like where do you work that into the process where you have the confidence and you pick the right timing to ask for the referral and actually leverage that client into 2 or 3 more clients?
I'm struggling with that right now. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head at one of the hardest things is, where do I go next in taking that from 1 to 3 clients?
Jamie, what would you coach somebody on that?
Well, first of all, you've got checklists that you follow systematically. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now it is asking in the process. It is asking the moment that they hire you because that's when they're going to love you the most, right? It's asking in the middle of that, and then it's asking again right after closing, because they're not thinking about real estate. They're thinking about themselves the whole time. And that's fine. They should be thinking about themselves. So it's up to us to prompt and remind them every which way. One of the conversations that we had on one of our morning calls, every single morning at 8 o'clock, we have a motivational, 5 to 10 minute call, some sort of tip that we give to our clients. And one was simply saying at the listing table or at the buying table, normally people are buying or selling because their friends or family members are excited that they're selling too. So right? You ask them once then. You ask in threes in hopes that they'll give you at least one because you're interrupting that thought pattern. And then you ask the other way. Now, are you thinking about retiring soon? Do you have a second home? Are you thinking about buying a second home? Are you moving out? Where are you going to so I can hook you up with a referral agent? We forget all of that. And hey, you know what, Earl? I saw that you've got a good design for eye. A good eye for design. I love that. I can speak backwards.
It's an Alabama thing.
Have you ever thought about flipping houses before? Okay, and now I can cultivate him into an investor. So it's asking those questions and getting people excited about that, and prompting them to say, any of your family, friends, members of your church, your coworkers, who's mentioned selling lately. And I always ask one. When you say, do you know anybody who's buying or selling? Then it makes them go down two different paths. You want to be really clear and say, who needs to sell in the next 60 days? So Earl has been awesome, and feel free to email us if you have any questions about his business or what he's done to be so successful. Earl, you want to give out your email?
Yes, it's Erle, E-R-L-E, at earlmorring.com.
Awesome. And
in the area that you work in, Earl, so that people can send you referrals if they have somebody coming into your area?
Metro Birmingham, Alabama.
Perfect.
We have a workshop tomorrow. If you are nearby in Birmingham, it's called Low-Tech to High-Tech Ways to Get Organized in Your Business. And organization's not my thing. I will not be teaching that class. I believe in being authentic and true to your own skill set. So Kimberly and Mitchell will be teaching that class tomorrow. It's $49. And our next Google Hangout guest next month is going to be the basics of commercial real estate for all of the residential agents to get an understanding of leases, how they work, how to write offers. And our guest is Amanda Harden with Avenue Realty. So thanks for hanging out with us today, and hope that we get to catch you next time.
Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, Earl.
Sure. Thank you for having me.